It really was a good visit. Tony Copel thought as he stood between his living room. Maybe that needs to be 2 words, right? Between his living room and kitchen, reading his mother's text. It had been less than 2 hours. Nope, that's not right. Less than 2.5 hours since she left. So either she had driven fast, or there was no traffic due south between Flagstaff and Phoenix. All right. Thanks for the great visit. I'm stopping by the grocery store on my way home. No, let's change this. All right, I'm gonna make some changes here. It really was a good visit, Tony Koppel thought, as he stood between his living room and kitchen reading his mother's text. It had been less than an hour since she left. So either she had driven, let's say, 200 miles an hour. Okay. Due south between Flagstaff and Phoenix, or she wasn't home yet. Say when the text came through, it had been less than an hour. That's it. Okay, it had been less than an hour since she left Phoenix, so either she had driven 200 miles an hour due south between Flagstaff and Phoenix, or she wasn't home yet. Thanks for the great visit. I'm stopping by the nope, let's do this. I'm stopping for gas. We'll drop by the grocery store before I get home. Thanks again for having me. I'm glad you're back in Arizona. Rose. Okay. All right. Thanks again for having me. I'm glad you're back in Arizona, Rose. Mom always signed her text messages with her name, like it was a note card. Never mom, always always Rose. Alright. He smiled and texted back. Alright. Look forward to seeing you again soon. I'm having a lot of trouble like highlighting words on my computer. I don't know if my mouse is set wrong. I've tried to adjust the settings, but I'm really finding it very difficult to highlight things the way I used to, and I don't like it, so I don't know what's wrong there, but not something I'm going to solve today. Look forward to seeing you again soon. Okay. He pocketed his phone and entered the kitchen, but then couldn't remember what he came here for. Probably food, maybe a drink, but he stood there waiting for his brain to come up with his last kitchen related thought. That's when the unease first set in. There was no real reason for him to fear something was going to happen to his mother on this particular trip home. But the omen clung hard to the dark and shadowy parts of his mind. Like a tumor, it sent tendrils out to feed upon his fears and superstitions. She was getting older. That was true. She hadn't been... Okay, hold on. She hadn't been... Hey, Tom, thanks for being here, buddy. Hope you're feeling better, man. I know you were down with the COVID right now. She was getting older. That was true. She hadn't been young when she had him. And she was getting on up there, even though he had only graduated college recently. All right. But she was lively and drove just fine. He made a... Let's use his name again one more time. All right. What is his name? Tony. Tony made... Oh, I need an indentation too. Tony made a move to the fridge, but pulled up short again. That dark omen took the place of all other thoughts and memories. He pictured something terrible happening to her at the gas station. He pictured something terrible happening to her at the gas station. He pictured accidents. He pictured a fall shortly after she got home, and he wouldn't think to check in with her again for days. Maybe the fear had started earlier. This was the first... No, hold on. Let's say the pandemic had dragged on into a second year. That dread sort of hung over everything. And Tony had more than one thought about this being the last time he might ever see her again. Again, it was just random thoughts. It was that whole idea of appreciating your loved ones because you never knew which time might be the last time. It was a reminder to make the most of each day. It was motivational meme shit, nothing more. But now, after typing that text about seeing her again, he felt like he had jinxed it. All silly superstition fed by the unfocused fear of a deadly virus disrupting life as we all knew it. But still, if that was his last text, it would haunt him forever. Alright. Just rolled out of bed. Let's kind of do this. Wait, I need coffee. Alright, Armand, you take care of yourself, buddy. Just keep me on in the background. If you need anything, just let me know. Thanks for dropping in, man. Up at 10:30. Wow, you milking cows or something down there, Armand? Alright. He took out his phone again, and his fingers hovered over the screen. He took out his phone again, and his fingers hovered over the screen with that same detached feeling of walking into a kitchen and forgetting why you did. If the last text was a bad omen, then texting something else might just be doubling down. What if he texted her as she was pulling out of the gas station and it distracted her? What if that was the self-fulfilling prophecy he feared? He almost put his phone away, but texted anyway. Mom. All right. Okay. There we go. Daniel, thanks for being here. Appreciate it, buddy. Hope your weird time between Christmas and New Year's is going well. I always, I know it's kind of this odd feeling, but I always like the bizarro time between Christmas and New Year's, where sometimes you go back to work, sometimes you don't, depending on what job you got. Sometimes you got plans, sometimes you don't, but you're just kind of lost and you don't know what day it is, and you don't know what you should be doing, and you haven't quite kicked in your New Year's resolutions yet, but you also haven't really left behind the holiday. So hope your weird times are going well. All right. He waited and waited. No dots came up. No response at all. That could just mean that she had already pulled away from the pumps and did not check her phone while driving. Alright, very weird. I'm off until January 3rd, so I have a decent amount of writing and reading to get done. There you go. Don't do anything else. Don't take on any more responsibilities. Just get your words down. That could just mean that she already pulled away from the pumps and did not check her phone while driving. That was good. That was probably it. And he just needed to put his dark feelings away because he had no control over them anyway. His final text to Mom would be just that, with a question mark. He started to shake where he stood. Without much more internal debate, Armand Rosamilia, Scared Cat Face. Where'd you find that one? Have you been following other streamers and getting their emotes? She started to shake. He started to shake where he stood without much more internal debate. He took up his keys and wallet, barely remembering to lock his house on the way to the car. I have a lot of emotes, follow a lot of others, but none of them as pretty as yours, obviously. Thank you. If my mind wasn't mush right now, I'd be writing. This is about as much as I can manage. Listen, Tom, your job is to get over COVID, and don't try to be a hero. All right. Without much more internal debate, he took up his keys and wallet, barely remembering to lock his house on the way out. He pulled from his designated parking spot and drove out to the highway. He pulled from his designated parking spot and drove out to the highway on autopilot. His mind lingered between all the horrible things that might have befallen his mother as a result of that last cursed text. All right. Tony made it a couple miles down the road before he realized the pinging sound from his dash was about his seatbelt. He got it on with only slight swerves into other lanes. The road was relatively empty, so he did not suffer for his mistakes this time. But what about Mom? Why did he write that he looked forward to seeing her again, like tempting fate? All right, so we got the sort of paranoid, superstitious kind of feeling going here. 2.5 hours. That's how long it would take for him to get to her house from his with light traffic. But what if he passed her car in the gas station where she was abducted? Her bleeding out ditch where she ran off the road checking his text and trying to contact him back. He shook his head and kept driving. Driving faster than he should have. Alright. Okay. After a few more miles, a few more worry-filled miles, he thought to check his gas gauge. Maybe he was going to stop and be the one never to return. He thought he might prefer that to losing his mom. But the tank was mostly full. Say this car got good gas mileage, so he should be fine to get to her house and discover her fate. All right, we'll get to the details here. Most of his co-workers drove Teslas or Priuses. I don't know why that was hard to spell. All the fancy cars are tough for me to get pluraled correctly. Hey Tempest, thank you for being here. Appreciate you dropping in. Hope your day's going well and you're getting done everything that you imagined you would. Let's say his bosses drove Mercedes or BMWs. He still liked his, let's say Tony, we'll use his name here since I've talked about a bunch of other people here. Tony still liked his oddball used Kia Sportage. No, sorry, it's Kia Soul. That he still couldn't afford. They couldn't really afford, even with his cool new tech job. Mom had driven away in her 2010 Subaru Forester. Alright, let me spell that correctly. Subaru Forester. I do not think I got that. Well, I did. There we go. All right, let me catch up on the chat here. All right. Got a question. When an agent asks for a full manuscript, that's a good thing. How long is the waiting time usually, or how long have you waited? All right. Let me get back down here. All right, there we go. Now, most of my things from agents have been rejections. So even when they've asked for the manuscript, the answer is a long time. I have never had an agent get back to me quickly. So anytime I got a straight out rejection, it took a very long time, almost to the point that I forgot that I'd sent it. And the couple times that they asked me for a manuscript, which also got rejected, so maybe I'm not the best person to ask, it was a very long time. So it was just a ridiculous amount of time. Like, I want to say months, but that's kind of typical for the industry. Now, I'm not saying there's never a situation where they get back quickly, but by and large, they're looking at a lot of things at once, and they take a long time to get back. Now, once they've asked you for a manuscript, obviously they're a little more interested. If they ask you for the full manuscripts, because they've now taken the time to look at the whatever sample they requested, and so I would imagine that they may get back quicker now since they're expressing interest. But this is, if there's anything in the industry that takes the longest, it's an agent getting back to you when they're evaluating your stuff. So I guess the only advice is to be patient, and congratulations on getting the request for the full manuscript. More often than not, if they've asked for the full thing, then they're interested enough, and they've rejected many others to decide to look at yours. So best of luck to you in getting that. That's going to be awesome if you get that kind of support behind you in your career. All right, Mom had driven away in her 2010 Subaru Forester. I'll say Tony picked up his phone and called her number. It didn't even ring before going to voicemail. He didn't leave one. That could mean she turned off her phone while driving, which would be great. Oh, you're welcome. All right. Which would be great. Great news. It could also mean something happened to her phone, as something terrible was happening to her. All right. He sped up a little more as he passed another exit on his flight south. All right. So I've said all this. She had said she was glad. Ooh, leaf blowers going on outside. If anybody has any questions for the guys blowing leaves, let me know. I'll shout them out the window. She had said she was glad he was back in Arizona, even in the grip of his irrational fears. He smiled at that. He had left. He had left their home in Phoenix to go to college in California, only to be brought back to Arizona. Be it a couple hundred miles north in Flagstaff. Mom had moved from their old home to a condo, come on buddy, get it together, to a bungalow. I don't know why this matters, what kind of house she lives in, but I debated over it anyway. I guess I've been watching too many home improvement shows, so now I got house types in my head. Mom had moved from their old home to a bungalow in Regal Ranch on the other side of Phoenix. Alright. Guess Flagstaff doesn't have two G's in it. Alright. Alright, Armand. I'm partial to the island hunting shows lately. Pretenders who want to buy an island. There you go. I thought at first you meant like those treasure hunters that are constantly looking for pirate gold or whatever it is on, or Bigfoot's gold or whatever it is they're looking for on a particular island, and they're always finding buttons and stuff like that. I know you watch those too. But you're talking about like the wealthy house hunters that are buying third homes on islands, and they're like, well, as long as we're here, we might as well buy the whole island. Yeah, I know. I've been joking that because my mom was up here, and so like just to pass the time, nothing gets me going like finding rusty buttons, because they mean there's gold nearby, secret gold, magic gold. Since my mom was up here, she actually came up before Thanksgiving, and she stayed through Christmas, so we had her up here for a month, and which is very kind of my wife. I appreciate that, and my mom likes it too because she's getting older and doesn't like driving up twice. But while she's here, we kind of get on Discovery Plus and watch all those home improvement shows, like episode after episode, season after season. To just kind of kill the time, because that's something that she likes to watch. And to this day, like when people talk about a Craftsman style home or a Cape Cod or a colonial or any of that, I could not identify one of those to save my life. No matter how many times they show me one, they all kind of look the same to me. So what makes this one Craftsman and that one colonial? And I know I've had it explained to me before, but I'm at a loss. So you could just show me any home and tell me it was anything. You could actually make up words for what type of home it was, and I would just believe you, because I have no clue as to what type they are. But Tony's mom lives in a bungalow, so that's what we got. Which, if I'm correct, means it's all on one floor, and it's a little bit of a smaller home. Usually, generally you think about it as being closer to the beach, but that's not necessarily true. So that's what I'm thinking. A lot of retired couples move to bungalows is my impression from all those shows. All right, so Mom had moved from their old home to a bungalow in Regal Ranch on the other side of Phoenix. All right, Tony took a moment to pass a convoy of semis. He really tested the limits of his Kia and the speed limit laws. No cops in sight so far. Since the pandemic started, the roads had belonged to the semis, bringing supplies to everyone sheltering in place. Many people were returning to life as best they could, but Tony and his company were still largely working from home. He loved it and hated it in equal measures. Oh, we got a couple leaf blowers going outside. I think they're in more than one yard, so if you have different questions for the various leaf blowing teams, let me know. If you have a way that we can keep score on them, I'll set up a board here and we'll track who's doing the best leaf blowing. All right. He loved it and hated it in equal measures. All right. He did like his job, though, and liked that they took his health seriously. The joke around the office before everything went remote say he hated Zoom meetings more than in-person meetings. The joke around the office before everything went remote was that the Republican senators had helped make Arizona desirable to all these new tech companies, but the companies brought in a lot of progressive voters who might vote out those same senators in the next election. All right. He passed a car parked on the side of the road at an odd angle. He almost slammed on his brakes. Well, let's spell the right kind of brakes here so I don't look dumb. He almost slammed on his brakes. He knew it wasn't a... What kind of car did I say she had? He knew it wasn't a Subaru, even from a distance. He knew it was miles from where she would have texted about getting gas farther south, but he still almost screamed to halt to look for her body inside the rusty, abandoned sedan. A dingy t-shirt flapped in the dry winds, where it was rolled up in the driver's window, and Tony raced on southward, adding to that wind as he went. Alright, good stuff. He had a moment of panic as he thought he might have forgotten his masks. He wasn't one who wore them while in his car. He had a moment of panic as he thought he might have forgotten his masks. He wasn't one who wore them while in his car, but he was serious about following the safety rules while in public. His mother was a nurse. She worked in hospice care, but also had plenty of stories about the horrors going on in overcrowded ERs and hospitals all over the state. She had been able... the leaf blowers are getting closer. If anyone has any questions, I can probably shout out my window and maybe they'll be able to hear me. Alright. She had been able to get her vaccine early, being a frontline worker. He would get his as soon as he qualified for one down the road. This was one of those times when being young and perfectly healthy might be a disadvantage. Alright. Maybe that was all this moment, let's say extended moment, all this extended moment of panic was about. Afraid for her, afraid for himself, just afraid. He kept driving. Every exit he passed, okay, hold on, had him looking at the stations as if he might spot her vehicle on the fly. He fought the temptation to look for her at every exit. Fought the temptation to, let's say, pull off and look for her at every exit. If she wasn't home when he got there, then he might do so on the way back. Alright, that needs to be the same paragraph, so let me pull that sentence up. There we go. Alright, now we need to get this dude down to his mom's house and see what happens. He called her at the 2-hour mark. Straight to voicemail with no rings. He left no message. Tony figured he had tempted fate too much. Tony figured he had tempted fate too much already with his cursed text. He called again at the oh my lord, what just happened? The 2-hour and 15-minute mark. Same result. All right. 3 more times leading up to hour 3, and Tony ripped through Phoenix proper to get to Regal Ranch. Alright, he did pass a police car without slowing. If the guy decided to pull him over, Tony wasn't sure if he would explain why he was speeding or not. When the car parked, alright, hold on. When the car parked in the median, did not move before it vanished behind him, he thought maybe it had been an empty decoy. Tony exited and paid attention to the final turns as best he could while planning her funeral in his head. What would the search be like? How long before they found out the truth? He spotted her little house as he made his way to the opening of her neighborhood. He did not see her vehicle. It could have been in the carport, so the open carport. Apparently her bungalow does not come with a built-in garage, so probably it was a little bit cheaper as a result. It could have been in the open carport, but he didn't think so. He slowed down as he cruised toward her house. There were a few kids in this development and a lot of older people. And all his fear for his mother's safety, he did not want to put other families through the same loss. Okay. Turning on her curved drive that weaved between other bungalows. Okay, how did I spell it right one time and not this time? Bungalows, oh, it has a W, I forgot that. Okay. Alright, turning on her curved drive that weaved between other bungalows. One of her neighbors waved. Tony waved back and curved toward Mom's place. Okay. Let me put a sentence in between here, and then that'll be the last sentence of that paragraph. All right. She was a nice lady, older than Mom, but still spry. She collected Mom's mail. She collected Mom's mail while Mom was away. Okay, there we go. All right. The Subaru was here, but it was parked at an odd diagonal to the carport. The Subaru was here, but it was parked at an odd diagonal to the carport. The house had partially hidden it as Tony passed on the main road. Let's say on a diagonal ... He pictured the abandoned vehicle on the side of the road. He pictured a t-shirt flapping in the dry winds as cars passed by without investigating. She had made it this far, at least. She had made it this far at least, but this was not how she parked. Tony stopped behind her and jumped out of the vehicle. Alright, he had his phone in hand to call for help as soon as he knew what was wrong. Alright, we're almost done with this. He had his phone in hand to call for help as soon as he knew what was wrong. He was going to get to see her one more time, it seemed, for better or worse, unless she had been abducted from here. He rounded the corner to find the side doors open. Just hanging open, like she had been interrupted in mid, alright, ... Tony, he jumped and spun to see his mother standing wide-eyed with one hand over her chest, as if slowing her heart. Wouldn't that be something if he startled her into a heart attack? What are you doing here? He moved in and gripped her in a tight hug. She patted his back and spoke into his shoulder. What's wrong? What happened? He let her go and tried to come up with a lie on the fly that didn't make him sound crazy. Oh, there was a thing I needed to do down at... Tony, what is it? His face contorted and he said, I had a bad feeling, and I just had to come down to rid myself of it. Okay. Well, everything is fine. Are you okay? Are you okay now? He nodded and turned away. Sorry, I'm being weird. I'll get out of your hair. After driving all this way, she grabbed his sleeve. It'd be dark by the time you got home. Just stay the night and you can head out in the morning. Since you're here... No, that's not where that would go. Since you're here, comma, help me bring in the groceries. How are you only just getting groceries home? Home now. She laughed and said, well, you have to follow those lines on the floor. So every time I forgot something, well, you have to follow those lines on the floor now. So every time I forgot something, I had to circle back around. Then I talked with Doris for a long while after I picked up my mail. I literally just opened the door. Feeling foolish, Tony helped his mom bring in the groceries. He hadn't brought a toothbrush, deodorant, or a change of clothes. After tonight, he'd have to leave her behind again and fight those feelings that it might be the last time he ever saw her. All right.